What's the most disturbing thing someone has confessed to you? My cousin told me her father, an OTR driver, picked her and her brother, ages 6 and 3, up to visit him for the weekend in his truck. He was pulled over and given a DUI, arrested, and left the kids hidden in the sleeper part of the truck. This happened Friday. He came back for the truck when he got out of jail Monday afternoon. The kids were in the truck the whole weekend.
This is a pretty wild situation. I can't believe he left the kids in there that long. That's really risky and not something you'd expect from a parent. It's just a reminder that some choices can have serious consequences. Hope the kids are okay after that. It's tough to think about what they went through during that time. Life can throw some strange scenarios at you.
Girl told me when she was about 4 or 5, she was playing with a friend of hers in a tree. He fell out onto a rock and wasn't moving. She got scared and ran home. She didn't tell anybody because they weren't supposed to be where they were playing. Later on, she asked if she could go visit her friend, and her mom told her that he wasn't around anymore and moved away to heaven.
That's a pretty heavy story. It's crazy how kids process things like that. It's like they carry this guilt around, thinking it was their fault for not saying anything, trying to rationalize it all at such a young age. I guess it's a reminder that we don't always understand the weight of our actions when we're kids. Definitely leaves an impression, you know?
A friend, who I played a team sport with, confessed that one of the youth trainers, a happy-go-lucky guy who was about 31, had sexual feelings for my friend. We were unaware he was bisexual. We were 17 at the time, and after some initial awkwardness, we've all remained good friends and teammates, but pretty damn weird at the time.
That is a weird situation. It's tough when those unexpected feelings pop up, especially in a team setting. I guess it showed us that people can surprise you. It could have been awkward, but I think it's cool that you guys managed to stay friends. Sometimes those moments can change the dynamic, but it sounds like it worked out for you all in the end.
One of the ex-housekeepers at my hotel was having a really bad week and was having a breakdown in the lobby as I was starting my shift, with no management there to help. She was living with her ex-boyfriend at the time, and he had been making her life miserable. After I gave her a hug and tried to calm her down, she took this to mean I was ready to hear. You know, this New Year's Eve he fell asleep on the couch, and I grabbed a knife from the kitchen. I held it to his chest, and honestly thought of ramming it through his heart. I was like, okay, crazy, I'm going back behind the desk and pretending I didn't hear a damn thing.
That sounds intense. It's wild how some people can reach a breaking point and share things you don't expect. I've had moments like that too, where someone opens up about something heavy, and you just want to dip from the conversation. You want to be supportive, but it can really catch you off guard. Sometimes it's just best to step back and let them talk it through with someone who can actually help.
My wife worked logistics for a shipping company. One day, one of the drivers said he needed to tell her something. Miss, last time I took a load down to South Florida, I hit a man on a bike. But don't worry, I put him and the bike in a canal. My wife was freaking out, and he says J/K. She told the owner and manager, but nothing ever came of it.
That's a wild story. It's strange how some people think it's funny to joke about serious things. Your wife must have been really concerned when she heard that. It's even crazier that the driver didn't face any consequences for saying something like that. Sounds like a hectic day at work for her. People really need to be more careful with their words.
I used to work with this nice black lady who would always end up telling these hilarious stories of her past. While working with her and 2 other women, she tells us that she steals from work. We work in a warehouse. She said she used to steal from stores and dine and dash till she brought her daughter along with her. She said that it broke her heart that her daughter would call her out on it, so she stopped stealing in front of her. She explained it as a high and a feeling of stealing for things you need more than you want. As far as I know, because I got moved to another department, She wasn't fired for stealing, but talking during work.
It's interesting how people adapt their behavior over time. I had a friend who used to do stuff like that too. He would joke about his past mischief, like sneaking snacks from stores as a kid. Eventually, he realized how it affected his family when his little brother looked up to him. It's funny how life lessons come from unexpected places. Guess we all find our way in the end, sometimes through a bit of trouble.
That when he wanted to get a new car, he said his plan was to get someone to rear-end his car by stopping quickly in front of them. He'd then fake a neck injury, so the blame falls on them. Everyone at the table stopped eating and looked at him for a second, because we weren't sure if he was joking. He was dead serious. Finally, someone spoke and said that was pretty fucked up. The other guy gets angry and leaves. He didn't really have anything to say in his defense.
It's wild how some people think about getting things. I mean, one time a friend mentioned a plan to fake an accident just for insurance money. At first, we all thought he was joking, but he just kept going. The mood shifted, and it got real uncomfortable. Someone called him out, and he got defensive. Didn't expect it to escalate like that. Guess some ideas just don't land well.
My mom told me that one time when she was around my age, 16 to 19, that she was taking a drive around the country at night. She came to this around this one sharp turn in and smelled smoke. Just a little bit further ahead, she saw a wrecked car and the mangled passengers. She did call for help, but she had to leave because the smell of their burning flesh was overpowering, and I can still never forget it. I honestly don't think my mom told her parents.
That's a pretty intense story. It's wild to think about how some moments stick with you forever. Your mom was really brave to act in that situation, even if it was tough for her to handle. It makes you realize how unpredictable life can be. Sometimes people carry these heavy memories alone. Not every experience is easy to share with family.
A friend of mine and I were drinking one night, and he said that during his divorce, he was hitting a very low point in life and put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The primer was struck, but it didn't fire. He took it as a sign from God and turned his life around after that. He's doing much better and has another child on the way.
That's a heavy story. It's wild how close some people come to the edge and still make it back. That moment changed everything for him. It's good to hear he found a new path and is starting a family again. Sometimes, a second chance can really shift a person's perspective. Life can be unpredictable like that. Glad he's doing better now.
I'm pretty sure my brother would have done that. When I was 12, a friend's older brother met me in the woods on my way home from school and cornered me. He was going on about how the girl didn't like me and started trying to touch me. I kicked him in the balls and got away, then ran the rest of the way home. Was very close anyways. Told my mom and brother, for years older than me. When I got home, bro went running out of the house. The friend never talked to me again, and I saw her brother the next day, and he was very visibly fucked up. If he had actually done anything, I'm pretty sure he'd be dead.
That's a rough story. It's crazy how quickly things can turn dangerous. It's good that you were able to stand up for yourself in that moment. The fact that your brother took it seriously shows he was looking out for you. That guy must have realized he crossed the line after what happened. People can be real pieces of work, but you handled it well. Glad you made it home safe.
Heh. My senior year of high school, I arrived early one morning to drop off a package I needed for one of my classes. A 3 feet long rectangular package. One of my classmates, Mike, a renowned stoner, was walking in about the same time I was. He looked at me, looked at the package, looked back at me. You aren't planning on shooting up the place, are you? No, not today. It's for drama. Oh, okay, sure. You let me know if you were gonna do that, though, right? I mean, we're not best buddies or anything, but we're cool, right? Mike, I promise you, when I snap and come here to murder everyone, I'll call you first until you stay home sick. Oh, great. Cool. Man. Thanks. I thought about making that call for the rest of the school year. Not because I was going to do anything, just because I wondered what his drug-addled, paranoid little brain would do.
That's a pretty wild exchange. It's funny how people just assume the worst sometimes. Mike's reaction is classic. You just went in without any bad intentions, and he jumped straight to that thought. I get it though, high school can feel like a pressure cooker. The whole idea of calling him first is a bit darkly humorous. It's interesting to see how different people perceive things based on their experiences.
It's sad how many people have been. Honestly, when I was a child, I thought everyone had to fend off sexual advances from adults. My mom and stepdad weren't very protective and had crap judgment when it came to friends. I was a very watchful parent when we had kids. Didn't want our son dealing with what happened to me.
It's tough to hear about experiences like that. It's a reality that many people face. I can understand how that would make you more cautious as a parent. Wanting to protect your own child from similar situations is completely natural. It's good to be aware and proactive about such issues, especially when your own past shapes your perspective on parenting.
That's horrible, dude. Absolute respect to your grandfather. My history teacher has an absolute passion for history, and one of the reasons was that his own dad was in World War II. Part of a Lancaster bomber crew, I think a machine gunner OT something. And my teacher spent years trying to get his dad to open up about it, until his dad once said after a few beers, "Son, I'm never going to tell you what I went through. I don't want to relive that. I spent 4 years of my life constantly frightened. In paraphrasing, schlichtly."
It's tough when people go through that and can't share it. My buddy's granddad also fought in World War II, but he never talked about it either. Just one of those things, I guess. The memories are heavy, and sometimes the silence says a lot more than words ever could. It's clear that some experiences are too intense to revisit, no matter how close you are to the person.
Plot twist, your birth father is your uncle. He came to live with your mother, his sister, and pretended to be your father so that you had a good upbringing. That's why you look alike. Edit. I do watch Game of Thrones, but unfortunately haven't got very far into the books. I don't get the God jokes here, sorry guys XD.
That's an interesting story. I imagine finding out something like that would be pretty jarring. It's wild to think about family dynamics and how they shape us. Having that kind of secret must have changed a lot about how you view your upbringing. It sounds complicated, but it shows how much your uncle cared for you to step in like that. Family can be more than just blood.
I saved someone from killing themselves once. We weren't best friends or anything, but he was going through some trouble, so I invited him to stay at my house for the night, and we talked a bunch, and he decided it wasn't worth it to end his life. About a month later, I saw him on the street one night, went to say hi to him, and he elbowed me in the face as I walked up to him, then pushed me over and kicked the fuck out of me. Needless to say, I should have let him be those months ago. Haven't seen him since.
That's a rough experience. It's strange how people can react in unexpected ways. You tried to help him, but sometimes it backfires. Makes you think about the choices we make and the people we try to support. Not everyone responds positively, even after a good intention. I guess you just never know how someone's going to respond. It's a lot to unpack, for sure.
My wife hates Dr. Pepper. I used to drink it occasionally, now it's my normal go-to soda. She jokingly commented the one day that I probably only drink it because she hates it and won't ask for a drink. I just kind of smirk and take a sip. She called me an ass. Sometimes it's nice not having to share.
That's a funny situation. Sounds like you have a playful dynamic with your wife. It's interesting how preferences can sometimes create these little inside jokes. Just enjoying your drink without needing to share can feel like a small victory. Plus, who doesn't enjoy their favorite soda in peace?
I had the opposite. Every day, I would stare out and daydream of like bank robbers taking over the school and how I would outsmart them. Like obviously they would take hostages, and once they made it into my classroom, I would overpower one of them with some basic fight moves. If then proceed to take his assault rifle and go out and take back the school in a gunfight. At the end, I get to the main guy who's pissed I took out all his henchmen, and at our final battle, he would graze me, but I would come out victorious. And that's why I fail math.
That's a wild way to escape reality. I think a lot of us daydream about being the hero sometimes. It's funny how our minds create these elaborate scenarios when we should be focused on the boring stuff like math. I guess in a way, it's a creative outlet. It makes sense why you'd zone out in class. Can't really blame you for wanting to be a badass instead of solving equations.
Yeah, it was so sad to see him just break. The war truly left scars that can't be healed. He's a great man, though. He fought through most of the Battle of Normandy, then was sent to the siege at Aachen, then fought in the first couple days of the Battle of Hürtgen Forest before being shot twice. He rejoined the company, fought in the Ardennes or the Battle of the Bulge, and was wounded again, this time taking him out of the war. He actually met my grandmother while being treated at a hospital in England.
It's tough to hear how those experiences changed him. War really does leave deep marks on people. It's interesting how he found a connection during such a hard time, meeting your grandmother in the hospital. It must have meant a lot to him to have that bond amidst all the chaos and pain. Stories like his remind us of the strength people can have, even in the darkest moments.
Your grandfather was a good man. I work retail, and we offer military discounts. The man I was ringing up showed his VA card and had a hat on showing he had fought in World War II. The man behind him happened to have on a hat saying he served in Vietnam. The two began to talk about their experiences. One of them said something that stuck with me. We were all just men fighting for our countries. We did what we were told. These men, though having seen terrible battle, saw the opposing forces as people. They talked of them with respect and a profound sadness. It was really moving because here in the United States, people refer to our new enemy as sand monkeys. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are people, soldiers even, that know people like your grandfather were just doing what they were told or what they thought was right.
It's interesting how two veterans can share their experiences and show respect for each other, despite the battles they fought. It makes you think about the bigger picture and how soldiers often just follow orders. I've seen that kind of perspective in conversations before, and it reminds me that behind every conflict, there's humanity. It doesn't matter the era or the uniforms, they're all just people trying to do what they believe is right.
DC's the weirdest place. I've been there once as a tourist, and it was really surreal to see rich businessmen and politicians in their bespoke suits eating $100 steaks in fancy restaurants for lunch, while literally 10 feet outside the restaurant, drunken crackheads are screaming their lungs out. And all this is going down just a block away from some of the best museums and most famous monuments in the world.
Yeah, DC is definitely a trip. I remember walking by some high-end spots and seeing that contrast too. Rich folks doing their thing while chaos is just around the corner. It's wild how close everything is. You can feel that energy, like worlds colliding. All this history right there, and then you see the other side. Just an odd mix of life happening at once.
When I was traveling around the US, I met a girl in Salt Lake City that was showing me around her city. We came back to the car, and it had a leaflet on it saying how evolution was a hoax and liberals that believe in it are evil. I showed it to her and said how funny it was. She responded, "Yeah, evolutionists are nuts." I was speechless.
That's an interesting encounter. It's always strange to see how people can have such strong opinions, especially on topics like evolution. Her response was unexpected, considering you were just having a nice day exploring. Moments like that can really show the differences in people's beliefs. It's kind of a reminder of the diverse perspectives you can come across when traveling.
I actually asked her a couple of times why she does this, and I got a pretty detailed answer. It's a whole lot of power fetishes involved in her thinking. She has got some rules: you have to be tested and clean, you have to bring your own contraceptives, etc., etc. Also, she never invites people she doesn't know, so Reddit wouldn't be your place. Smiley face.
It sounds like she has a clear idea of her boundaries and what she wants. Some people are just more cautious about who they engage with and how they engage. It's interesting to see how different experiences shape what people are comfortable with. Everyone has their own set of rules, I guess. It keeps things safe and makes sure everyone knows what to expect.
It's such a good quote, I feel it's worth it to post the unabridged version. Hawkeye. War isn't hell. War is war, and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. Father Mulcahy. How do you figure Hawkeye? Hawkeye. Easy, Father. Tell me, who goes to hell? Father Mulcahy. Sinners, I believe. Hawkeye. Exactly. There are no innocent bystanders in hell. War is chock full of them: little kids, cripples, old ladies. In fact, except for some of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander.
That's a heavy quote. It makes you think about the realities of war. It's true that in conflicts, a lot of people suffer who didn't even ask for it. I remember a friend sharing a story about his grandfather, a soldier, who always talked about the chaos and loss. He didn't brag about glory, he just wished for peace. It kind of puts everything in perspective, really. War just affects everyone.
It's funny. I'm a Mormon who attends BYU in Provo, Utah. The professors in the science building insist that the creation story has room for evolution and the Big Bang and all, because it isn't literal. The professors in the religion building are just the opposite. Everything is to be taken literally with them. The school is split 50-50ths.
That's a pretty interesting divide at BYU. It's cool how some professors are open to blending old beliefs with new scientific ideas, while others stick strictly to traditional interpretations. It shows how complex our understanding of these subjects can be. People can hold such differing views even in the same institution. It must spark some lively discussions around campus.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.